stops. Human rights activists say the Iranian regime has now killed more than 2,000 protesters and arrested more than 16,000. Meanwhile, President Trump's national security team will meet today to discuss Iran intervention options. Let's bring in White House correspondent Karen Travers and ABC national security and defense analyst Mick Mulroy for more. Hi to you both. So, Karen, what is the president saying now about these meetings, these conversations, and what's the latest on this national security meeting?
Yeah, we are told that officials will be meeting to talk about options for the president, not necessarily the president being involved in this. He's about to leave to head to Michigan for a speech on the economy. The president, though, in that social media post says Iranian patriots keep protesting, take over your institutions. And he also says that he has canceled all meetings with Iranian officials. Now, this comes just a day after the White House said that his special envoy, Steve Witkoff, have been having conversations with the Iranian foreign minister. The White House wasn't giving details about where the president necessarily wanted those conversations to go, but just that diplomacy was his first option. But the White House also says that there are many, many options on the table for the president, including airstrikes against Iranian targets. There are also potential options of cyber attacks or influence operations to try to undermine the Iranian regime, and also the potential of further sanctions against Iranian officials or sectors of their economy.
And Mick, the U.S. is warning all Americans inside Iran to leave the country ahead of a possible intervention there. How significant is that?
Very significant. Iran showed in the past it has no problem essentially just grabbing American citizens and using them as political hostages. And obviously right now, the regime is so concerned about U.S. strikes and their very existence in the future that this would be something that I think they would be expected to do. Obviously, completely unlawful, but that's not something that's stopped them in the past. And we also saw that happen in Venezuela, right? Quite frankly, before the Maduro operation with the regime there starting to grab up American citizens. So everybody should take this very seriously, and Americans should leave Iran.
And Karen, Trump's also putting a 25% tariff on Iran's trade partners, including China. So how are they responding?
Yeah, this was a significant post last night from the president. Now, it doesn't mean he's necessarily going forward with this, but it's certainly a threat to try to isolate Iran, try to squeeze the Iranian government. He says that he would be putting a 25% tariff on countries that do business with Iran. Now, the biggest target potentially there is China, who is Iran's biggest trade partner and the world's largest importer of oil. This would potentially disrupt that very delicate trade truce that we have with China. Remember, tariffs at one point were well over 100%. Now they're down just below 50%. China is saying, with a response from their foreign minister, that there are, quote, no winners in a tariff war, and that China will safeguard its legitimate rights and interests. So this threat against Iran might have a double effect of imbalancing things right now with business with China.
And Mick, there's a nationwide internet blackout in Iran. So how does that affect mass protests like this?
Well, there's a reason why the regime is trying to bring down the internet every possible chance they can, because the more Iranians can see the enormity of these protests, so far beyond what we've seen in the past, likely because this affects everyone, because the economic situation is very dire, and that it crosses ethnic groups and special interest groups, if you will. So this includes everybody. So they don't want the Iranians to see just how much their fellow citizens are with them. They also don't want to see the atrocities they're committing, basically wholesale slaughter of protesters by the security forces. So they're going to try to keep the internet down, and I hope the United States and others are trying to keep it up. That is very important to really show just what